This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Geer with the Pennsylvania Family Institute. It's the fastest 10 minutes in radio, so gentlemen, start your engines. Here we go. Jason, I'll begin with you as the dust starts to settle from this recent $268 or $269 billion budget. I don't know which one it is, but it's about $14 billion more than last year. A lot of folks are wondering how much political capital did this buy for Governor Hochul as she seeks re-election this fall?
Well, there's a number of things going on in this budget. One, I think the governor has spent a lot of political capital with the legislature. Her leverage is clearly in the budget process, and she has used that leverage to accomplish some of her legislative goals. So she spent the capital with the legislature, but she did invest some political capital for the upcoming election. There were some things I think will be popular in this budget. For example, there will be what's being called a utility rebate check that's coming back to people across the state. You can anticipate, if you are a taxpayer in New York, getting somewhere between $100 to $200 in a check with the governor's signature on it just before the election. That will likely buy her some political capital heading into the general election.
Yeah. Michael, it is budget season in Harrisburg. Lawmakers returning from a month-long break to finish work on the budget. They haven't passed an on-time budget in several years. A lot of folks are saying it's not going to happen this year either. What are the issues that are dominating those budget talks in Harrisburg?
Yeah, the budget last year didn't get resolved until November, even though the constitutional deadline is June 30th. This year, the talks are pitting Democrat Governor Shapiro's budget, which increases taxes and spending, versus the Republican Senate's push for more fiscal restraint. Shapiro is looking for more money for his spending boosts through legalizing and then taxing the commercial sale of marijuana. We oppose that strongly and don't think it's going to happen. That's a perennial fight these days. And then he's looking to regulate and tax further gambling expansions, especially the so-called skill games found at convenience stores, tobacco, and vaping shops. Yeah. The spending increases that Shapiro is proposing will send Pennsylvania into an impending fiscal cliff.
One of the last items of business that the state legislature took up this session, Jason, was this thorny issue of mid-decade redistricting. It's not going to affect the elections this fall, but it could affect the 2028 presidential election. What are Democrats concocting in Albany when it comes to gerrymandering?
Yeah, essentially, I think they're taking the gloves off. And, not that New York hasn't always gerrymandered its districts. It has. In fact, the voters in a previous referendum at the ballot box said they didn't want that. They wanted independent redistricting. This time, though, the Democratic majorities in Albany, including Governor Kathy Hochul and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, they're all opting to try to move a severe gerrymandering of New York's districts by removing independent redistricting and allowing the Democrats to gerrymander the districts to their favor in what may be the 2028 election. That will have to pass two successive legislatures and the vote of the people before it could be implemented. And so we got some time on this before it heads to the ballot referendum, but it is just a naked and raw power grab that the Democrats are engaging in here in the Empire State.
Well, one of the issues in Pennsylvania this week, Michael, was a state bell-to-bell cell phone ban at school. New York already has this sort of policy at school. The governor says he'll sign it once it reaches his desk. May not be much longer before that happens. What does the Pennsylvania Family Institute think of this effort to restrict digital distractions in the classroom?
Well, I'm going to harken back to my days in the classroom. We didn't have cell phones, so that may shock people that I'm that old, but I did okay. But we do support this legislation, and for common sense reasons, and in recognition of the studies that show that cell phones in classes hinder academic performance. Right off the bat, we know that smartphones are a distraction and consistently vie for our attention. All of us experience that, and that's not a good thing in the classroom when the heads should be turned in the direction of the teacher and not to a screen. And then studies are showing that one of those studies examined schools in the United Kingdom and England where phones were were prohibited. And it found that test scores improved after the bans were put in place. And it was the lower performing students that saw the greatest benefit from the cell phone school ban. So I think it just makes sense, and we're glad this legislation is moving forward.
We'll talk a little bit more about technology and the role it plays in our lives a bit later. Mike, I know you got a big event coming up. We'll tease that. But first, Jason, Primary Day is fast approaching, just a little bit over 2 weeks away now. Mark your calendar. I know a lot of folks are watching races in California and some of the big states. Any in New York in particular that New York Families is keeping a close eye on?
A lot of the attention is on the Democratic primaries in the New York City area, because largely who wins the Democratic primary will become the candidate and likely win the election in November. There is a Republican congressional primary just outside the Capital Region, heading a bit into the North Country area, pitting current sitting Assemblyman Robert Smullen against a challenger, Anthony Constantino. That's been a bitter race, and that will be a Republican primary out there we're watching. In the Buffalo area, though, you're looking at state Senate primaries. You've got a couple of gentlemen there that are running to represent the seats that was held by now the man who is the mayor of Buffalo. And so there's some attention on that race to see who can emerge to carry the Democratic banner in that particular race. So there are not a lot of primaries on the Republican side, but likely the Democrat primaries may decide the candidates that we'll be dealing with next January.
All right. And Michael, your group hosted a rally this week, I think back on Monday, talking about the important role that pregnancy care centers play in the community. I was struck by the millions of dollars in services provided, whether it's ultrasounds or prenatal care, but such a critical component to maternal health, these PRCs, pregnancy resource centers. If you would explain a little bit more about why it matters so much that we support our pregnancy care centers.
I'm glad to take that opportunity. We were very glad to partner with the Pennsylvania Pregnancy Wellness Collaborative, which is a group of pregnancy resource centers all across the state, in hosting this event at the Capitol as we seek to serve the pregnancy resource centers that are on the front lines in the fight for the sanctity of life. These centers, Bob, provide the kind of guidance and resources that pregnant women need, both during the pregnancy and after they give birth, many providing sonograms and medical guidance for a safe pregnancy, counseling and resources to meet the real physical and emotional needs during this time, and most importantly, a pathway to hope and a future for the baby, both inside the womb and after birth, and to its mother, which is the opposite of the death-dealing organizations like Planned Parenthood offer under the fake guise of helping women.
Yeah, I think there's something like 87 pregnancy care centers across the Commonwealth, so if there's one where you live, please support that vital effort on the front lines of maternal health care. And then, Jason, could not believe, maybe it's not shocking anymore because of how prevalent AI is in our lives, but nearly 20% of young adults admit that they use AI chatbots for mental health advice. What sort of red flags does that raise, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, one of the problems with the chat bots or the AI-enabled devices is they tend to take on the personality of the user. So if there is a user who is already suffering from suicidal tendencies or depression, the chatbot will eventually then feed back some of that in kind of a loop back to the user. So there's a concern there. There have been a number of cases where I've seen some dangerous things that have come as a result of that. In the legislature this week, the Assembly was passing a bill that would ban chatbot-enabled toys until we can figure out exactly how to handle these and move forward. And so we wouldn't be handing these furry animals into kids' hands that will then just loop them into some negative thought patterns and could negatively impact them.
Yeah, and that leads us to the final issue, Michael. You're hosting a webinar this month, severely needed webinar, on digital discernment and how to raise children in the age of AI. What do you hope people will come away with by attending this webinar later this month?
Well, we're really excited to be hosting this webinar on the evening of June 16th. We're hosting our friends from the organization Protect Young Eyes, and that organization's title gives an indication of what we're aiming for with this webinar, which is that parents and teens and children will gain the skills to navigate the treacherous waters of the online world, whether it's pornography and violence online, the lure of internet gambling and sports betting, or the rapidly expanding world of AI chatbots like you and Jason just talked about, and the access to harmful materials delivered into our homes via smartphones tablets and computers. So we have lots of folks that have already signed up for the webinar at pafamily.org/protectyoungeyes, and that, to me, shows there's a very strong appetite for help in this area, and we're hoping to provide it.
All right, that's all the time we have this week, but if you want to attend that webinar, 7 p.m. Tuesday night, June 16th. Again, Michael, what's the website where folks can sign up?
pafamily.org.
And stay informed on all the issues in New York. Jason, you have a wonderful website where folks can learn more about the great work going on at New York Families. What is that, if you would?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.